Welcome to Talk About It with Chidi, where we are not shy away from difficult conversation, we lean into them. Today, we're stepping into one of the most sensitive but necessary discussion in Nigeria, the judiciary, the institution that is supposed to be the last hope of the common man, but increasingly feels like the final disappointment because when the court fails, everything else begins to collapse. Laws become subjections, power becomes absolute, and justice becomes something only the rich can afford. So today, we are asking hard questions. Has the Nigerian judiciary system been captured? That's the question. Or are the justice still are the judges still truly independent? And when it matters most, does the constitution still mean what it says? I'm your host, Chidi, and this is Talk About It with Chidi, and I'm joined by my co host, Sake, and today we are not holding back. Sake, what do you
Well,
have to
like
say?
my
Welcome to the show.
host was actually trying to explain to us, the judiciary has almost become
We can
not
hear you,
the
Sake.
hope of the common man
Is
like
your
it
network mute?
ought to be. And at this point, it has become like,
We can hear you.
you
We can
know,
hear you. Amazing.
a pay for service
Okay.
kind of situation, which ought not to be in Nigeria, has now almost become pay
We're having issues with my co-host, so I'm just gonna go ahead and continue the show while he try to figure out what is wrong with his system. If you want to join the conversation, you can go ahead and click on the link right there. So when you click on the link, we'll be able to bring you on stage and have a conversation. So while my co-host is trying to get his system ready, we are going to dig deep into what the issues are with the judiciary system in Nigeria and how it is a dangerous
Hello,
system
Chidi.
that has failed. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Well, what my co-host you see, this is part of the issues Nigeria is having. Network issue. You can have conversation because the network is not good, no light, no good road, no good education, no good facility, nothing
Hello,
else.
Chidi. Can you hear me?
So while my co-host is trying to get his system right, we're gonna just proceed. So today we're gonna talk about the judiciary system in Nigeria, why the judiciary has failed the Nigerian people, and how it is a dangerous thing to have a judiciary that does not work for the common man. Because the judiciary normally deals with the life of people, like life and death, to take away people's freedom. The judiciary deals on that. So for the judiciary to just be lockstood and captured, it's a dangerous thing for the society as a whole. It's like a gun being placed on the head of the citizens, if you have a bad judiciary. Yeah, can you hear me now, co-host? Are you done? Are you good with your network?
Yeah, I wanted to just sorry, I because I did not hear what you were saying. I was just I paid for for the
So you see, this is still he's still trying to get his network right, and I just hope he can move around a little bit. Maybe that will help. So while we proceed, first of all, the judiciary is supposed to be an independent branch of the government. And in a democracy, we have three branches of government, and those three branches of government are the legislators, the judiciary, and the executive. The legislators make laws, they write laws. The judiciary interprets those laws, while the executive executes those laws. That is the phenomenon of democracy because power is decentralized between three bodies. So the job of the legislator is not only to write laws, but to also,
can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Hello? So the legislator's role is not only to write laws, but their job is also to hold the executive accountable. They're supposed to hold the executive to account, and why the judiciary is supposed to settle issues that boils down to laws between the executive and the legislator. Now, let's talk about why the judiciary is very important in these three branch of government. We'll first of all take it away from the politics and the governmental part of it and take it into law and order. The judiciary is consists of different um, offices. You have the office of the judge, you have the office of the prosecutor, you have the defense, the lawyers, you know, you have the police who are the bailiffs. They call some of them bailiff, you know. But everybody plays a different role to make justice possible, right? So if we're going to talk about Nigeria judicial system being captured, we're not just only going to talk about a judge or the bailiff, the police officers, or the clerk. Sorry, I didn't add the clerk the first time. Like the clerk, there are clerks in the court, those people that takes notes and do other stuff, right? Those are the ones in Nigeria that have to collect the bribe so they can. Yeah, are you back? Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
So go ahead and say something before your network gets you all messed up again. So
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
can hear
I'll
you. I
take.
can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and contribute to what I've been saying. If you've been hearing me, go ahead.
Okay. The other was going was, you make provision for eventual
But it's gonna be hard having a conversation with my co.
eventually you lose.
It's gonna be hard having this conversation because his network is bad, really, really bad. And if you live in Nigeria, that is what you get. You get mediocre kind of services at a very expensive rate. You know, you pay for
If you
something.
take it to the judiciary, just they just um, can you hear me?
Your network is breaking, so we're having difficulty
Trying
understanding
to
what
say
you.
is
Your network is breaking, so you're not being coherent because of the network. Man, this is crazy. Well, I'll just continue while he fixes his network, right? So let's go back to the judiciary. So when we want to talk about the judiciary, it consists of the judge, lawyers, the prosecutors, the defense lawyers, the suspects, because a person is deemed innocent until proven guilty. Even if you find someone with a gun, right, or you saw someone, let me assume now, for example, a judge is walking past and a judge sees you see someone shoot somebody dead, and that case comes before the judge. The judge, by law, is expected to treat that person innocent until there are enough evidence. Even if the judge saw it, if the prosecutor cannot prove his or her case, just because the judge saw it is not enough for the judge to rule against the suspect. We're going to go into that. And also, I don't know if it is the law in Nigeria, but I'm going to find out as this show continues. If you are supposed to use a jury, if you're supposed to have the right to choose a jury of your peers or just the judge to judge a case. But we'll go into that before the end of the show because I've really thought about that. I've not really had the time to really search and go deep into it. So, how is it dangerous for Nigeria to have a judicial system that is captured? We're not trying to go into the political party yet.
Right, Chidi, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Judy,
Go ahead. We're listening. We're listening. We're trying to make this
can
show.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, it's basically the judge. So the jury aspect of things does not apply in that. You would rightfully think ought to have gone the other way, but eventually went the other way. And I want to start, if you permit me, I'll mention name as we are going. I'll mention cases that the judges have gone in okay, probably the wrong direction, and in quotes now, wrong in the quotes, when it ought to, the evidences that were presented showed that this
Well, my co-host, we're not getting the real drift here because your network is not helping the issue. So I'm just gonna continue, co-host. We're not getting it. We're not getting it. We're not getting it, co-host.
did. Then, before I go further, I just
Wait, hold on. Can you hear me? Your network is not working for us. Your network is killing us. Well, so let me proceed, my people, and thank you all for joining, for listening. If you want to contribute to the conversation, there is a link on the comment section right here. You can just click on the link and I'll bring you in. If your network will allow you to have a conversation with me, that would be great because I like to have a conversation where people can now come so we can have a debate on the issue on the judiciary, or not necessarily a debate anywhere, like have a conversation about what's going on. So why I say this that even if the judge saw you, the judge has no right to judge you just because he saw you. Evidence has to be presented for a judge or for the jury to come to a conclusion that yes, this person is guilty of this crime, this person has broken the law. And also, a judiciary that is not independent now has to fall to the highest bidder. So whoever has the money gets justice. What I mean justice is whoever wins is who gets just who feels they get justice, but really, is it what the law says? Or is it because the lawyer was able to meet the judge in his inner chamber and give him some envelope, and the judge decide to rule against the poor person. Is that the kind of conversation we are having about the judiciary in Nigeria? My answer is yes. That's the kind of conversation we are having. In my opinion, you cannot go to court with honesty and faith and feel like you're going to get justice if you're not wealthy, because first of all, the lawyers are there to manipulate you and get as much as they can from you. The clerk are there to get as much as they can. They will direct you from one place to the other. They will make you buy different forms, fill different things, all in the name to raise money for themselves. uh, the judges are too close to politicians. Now let me give you one instance where I feel the judiciary has been captured. We have as the judiciary is a separate body of the government. The only people that are supposed and that are responsible for the judiciary are the people. And who are the people? The representatives of the people. That are your people like the representative, House of Representative, and the Senate. Those are the people, because those are the people representing the masses. The president represents everybody, and that is a very large constituent. But a senator and House of Representative represent a certain number of the populace. So they are representing their people. It's just that in Nigeria, it's not a place where you have like town hall meetings where you can actually challenge your local government chairman or your uh, mayor or your governor or your House of Representative. Those things are not common and are not possible in Nigeria. I saw a video where somebody in was it in Edo State? Yes, in Edo State. No, it's not in Edo State. It's, I think in Etiosa. Etiosa is in Lagos, I guess. I don't know where it's at. Please, if you know where it's at, please drop it at this comment section. And they told the local government chairman that they are coming to Etiosa to ask questions at citizens, like what are the level of revenue you get, give us informations, and those information should be public record first of all. In a society where you don't have public records, it is hard to trace what the politicians are doing. So normally, when they got there, they were supposed to meet the local government chairman, which is like a form of town hall, and tell him to give them breakdown of how much comes into the local government, how much the local government pays and disburses, and how much are they owing, and things like that. These are things citizens are supposed to know about. You're supposed to know about the person responsible for fixing the potholes on your street. You're supposed to know about the person that is responsible for grading your road. Now let's go back to the judiciary. Let me digress back to the judiciary. So these are the people that are responsible are the representative, those that are close to the people. They are the ones that are supposed to appoint. I mean, when the executive appoint, they are the ones that are supposed to advise by going through like investigation of the candidate and find out if they are worthy to serve in that capacity, right? They are the ones that are supposed to be responsible in disbursing funds, finances, supposed to be responsible for disbursing finances are the legislators. And also building of judges' quarters, buying of vehicles for judges, are the responsible as the responsibility of the legislator, not the executive. So in a society where the executive buys vehicles and build judges' quarters, that is a judicial system that has been captured by the executive. I'll give you an example. Even in states like Wike is prominent for bragging on how he has built houses for the judiciary and bought cars for the judiciary. In a society where there is rule of law, that is supposed to be unconstitutional, because by so doing, the judiciary is compromised. If the judiciary takes finances from the executive, allow the executive to build them houses and give them cars, whenever cases of the executive come before them, they are definitely going to rule in favor of the executive. So that is why it is really, really dangerous to have the executive finance the judiciary. In the real sense, the executive is not supposed to just finance anything that has not been approved by the legislator. Before the executive spends money, it has to be approved by the legislator. And the executive have to spend that money on what the legislator approved the money for. The job of the executive is not to make those laws or choose who to pay, is to execute the payment. That's why his job is execution. Like when they make a law that anybody that commits murder will have will be sentenced to 30 years. It happens. The job of the executive is to make sure that when that crime is committed and the judiciary has found that person guilty, then the executive will execute the guilty verdict by placing that person in solitary confinement. So the judiciary is a very, very strong component because it is the last arbiter of justice in a society. When a case, so let's say for example, the legislator writes a law, they write a bill, right? And that law, they say every citizen must be drafted into the military at the age of let's say 18, right? And somebody like I don't know if that happens in Nigeria, but a lawyer can just pick up that case, like maybe a civil rights group or a freedom group might just that have their own lawyers, like an organization, can just pick up such case, or they pick up that case, they challenge such law to the Federal High Court, and the High Court will look at the law and check the Constitution. If it goes against the Constitution, if the law goes against the Constitution, they will either rule against the legislators or against the lawyer if they find the law to be adequate, right? Now, let's say you fail there, you still have to take such law to the, I mean, such, this is to the next level. We all know the next level, which is the appeals court. And after the appeals court, you go to the Supreme Court. So whatever the Supreme Court decides now becomes the law of the land. Whatever the Supreme Court decides is now become law of the land. And once it's law of the land, it is covering every other high court underneath it, up to the appeals court, who have to abide by that law that the Supreme Court has adjudicated. So that is why it is important for the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, to be independent. The Supreme Court fails to be independent, the system collapses. Why do I say so? It will only take a while when you go and go and go and go, and you continue to pass unjust laws and unjust judgment that is glaring to the public that this is a captured judgment. It will only cause anarchy, which is why the rule of law is like a public contract for this for a society to abide by in order for everybody to be able to coexist. So when some people manipulate that law, they are breaking the social agreement that was made by everyone to obey by the rule of law, which says no one is above the law. So when you breach that, that means you're trying to push the society into chaos. What is the responsibility of the judiciary system? The judiciary system does not just consist of judges that wear robes. And first of all, I want to know, because this really bothers me, why are Nigerian judges still wearing the old colonial, what's it called? The old colonial wig they do wear. That thing kind of gives me like the ache every time I see it, because when I watch those movies of colonial masters, it still make me feel like the judicial system is still being run under such ideology. It shows that there have not been a reform of the judiciary system since the handover of the colonial masters to Nigeria, to show that the judiciary system is not meant for the common masses but for the elite. Because in the time of colonialism, the judicial system was to favor the colonizers and not the colonies, right? So if that such system has not been overhauled, have not been reformed, it will still practice such uh, ideology, even if you think it has moved to democracy, just like the Nigerian police force, just like the Nigerian police force. You can say the same thing for the Nigerian police force as well, right? And so many other institutions in Nigeria that has not reformed itself, that has not been able to remove itself from that colonial hold. The judiciary system is not far from it. They are not uh, free from the chains of such things. So they should do away with the weed. Maybe that might help. Just like the way the Nigerian police should do away with the word force in their name. So now let me go back to what I was saying. The judiciary does not just consist of judges with brown robes. It consists of police officers, but these are supposed to be officers that are assigned to the court. No, you find the police officer. Yeah, these are bailiffs. They call them bailiffs. They're the ones that attend to the judge. They're the one that takes document to the judge and stuff like that. Um, they're the one that help keep the sanity in the courtroom. Um, they're the one that usher in people and all that stuff. Then you have the clerks, those that sit on the typewriter that help you write out the certified true copy after a judgment, or that helps you write out affidavits, subpoenas, and other stuff. So those are the clerks, or you can call them what they call them again. That I forgot what they have another name they call them. Then you have lawyers, the prosecutor. Well, first of all, yeah, it depends on how it's run like that. But over here, you have the DA, who is the district attorneys. He's like in charge of the prosecutor's office, like the overall head. Every other prosecutor is under him, and they work closely with the police department. This prosecutor work closely with police before any case will be brought, before anybody will come to court. The police officers, after their investigation, let's say a crime happens. I'm trying to tell you how I feel a society and a judicial system is supposed to work. Let's say a crime occur, the police officer investigates the crime, gets and find like there's a probable cause, take it to a judge, get the warrant, continue to do your investigation, subpoena who has to come to court, who has to come for interrogation. Then when the police officer has successfully gathered enough evidence, then he takes it to the prosecutor look at this evidence, and if he feels that this evidence is enough to get a conviction, then the prosecutor will bring charges. Not until then, nobody is going to come arrest you. You might be aware you're being investigated, but not until the prosecutor is satisfied that they can actually prosecute this case and get a conviction, then they will not put out a warrant of arrest for the person, right? So the prosecutor, the police, and the judge seem kind of work together, but the people that actually work together a lot is the prosecutor and the police. They work close hand in hand. These are all components of the judiciary system, or in Nigeria, like you call it, the Ministry of Justice. These are all components. Now you have another segment, and this segment sometimes it feels like all these three parts gang up against this last segment, which is the defense uh, lawyers, the lawyers that defend the people, that's the suspects, right? But Nigeria likes to call them criminal, which is crazy. But first of all, you are not a criminal until convicted. Another until then, you're a suspect. Do not allow anybody call you a criminal, because by calling you a criminal is already accepting defeat, like already accepting that yes, I committed a crime. So whenever you are being addressed by a police officer as a criminal, you have every right to correct them that you've not been convicted of anything. So he or she will address you as a suspect because they're only suspecting you of something. They have not found enough evidence to convict you. And Nigeria also, I don't think it is the law for you to hold somebody. I'll come to that. Let me continue what I was saying before I come to that, so I don't confuse myself. The defense, right, is another part of the court. where their job is to defend the indefensible. Sometimes their job is to defend the innocent. When I mean defend the indefensible, some people commit this crime, but they need, but by law, they are right. They have right to a defense, right? Because you have to prove their guilt in order for you to convict them, right? You have to prove it. Now, the prosecutor and the police officer now comes to the judge. The judge sets a date for the court, and the court sits for the hearing. Those evidence are presented. But where it becomes really dangerous for the uh, defendant is if one, the judge is biased. Let's say biased in the sense that the judge is not independent. First of all, he has a tribal leaning, or a religious leaning, or a racial leaning, or an ethnic leaning. It does not matter what leaning the judge has, it becomes dangerous for the defense. Secondly, if the judge is too cozy with the prosecutor, it is dangerous for the defense. If it is a judge that collects bribe from prosecutors in order for them to win the case and put an innocent person in jail, then it is dangerous. Then if the judge is someone that is, let's say, have conflict of interest, that can be blackmail. Let's say the prosecutor has like know that the judge has like extramarital affair. They can use that against the judge to get conviction against an innocent person because the prosecutor just wants to put a win behind his or her back. Don't even care if that person rots in jail. That is dangerous. Now let's move from the judge to the prosecutor. Why it is dangerous to have a corrupt prosecutor. We are talking about the judiciary system as a whole. The judiciary system, once again, does not consist only of the judge. You can have a corrupt judge and an independent prosecutor and a law-abiding prosecutor that will call those stuff out, and you'll be able to fight corruption. But if everybody is corrupt, the system is there. So we're going to find if all these components in Nigeria are all corrupt. Now, first of all, that prosecutor, it is dangerous to have a prosecutor that has conflict of interest, just like the judge. The same thing with ethnic leaning, political leaning, or whatever. It is dangerous for the defendant. It is also dangerous for the prosecutor to be too ambitious and lack integrity. When the prosecutor is too ambitious and lack integrity and lack empathy at the same time, it is a dangerous affair. And the prosecutor that is easy to bribe is a dangerous affair too, right? And those as it is. The clerk, because whatever people say, if not recorded with a camera, sometimes if you say something, you might not be able to say it just the way you said it before. And those clerk types, those I don't know if they do it in Nigeria though, or type every word that comes out of everybody's mouth. And those transcripts are used and trusted on as exactly what was said in the courtroom, right? In absence of camera. So to have a clerk that is compromised or not intelligent enough to do those is also dangerous for the judiciary system. Now let's go to the defense. A defense that is lackluster, that does not care about the life of its client, and that is too focused on, because sometimes these people are assigned by the court. These people are assigned by the court. They don't necessarily get paid enough. Those that have money to get high-end lawyers that can defend them, good. But some people do not. So when you have those public defendants who are lawyers, call them public defendants, that do not have empathy, that just want to rush the case and don't care, or just want to get you a plea deal so that you can just move on to the next one because after all, I'm not making enough money, or I'm just doing a tax write off. That is dangerous too. That is really dangerous too for a suspect. A judiciary system that looks the other way is dangerous. Now, let me talk about something that normally happens in Nigeria that I disagree with. It's about defamation. Defamation is saying something about someone that defiled, that damaged their reputation, their integrity, that is actually false. So if they can prove it to be false, they can sue you for defamation. But the practice in Nigeria is that everybody runs to the police, and the police arrest you, keep you in detention for months, go to court, instead of the judicial system to say, look, this is not a criminal case, this is a civil case. This person is not supposed to be locked up. This is financial penalty and not jail terms. Now release this person and you go through the civil route and sue this person for damages. That is what defamation. That's how you're supposed to settle defamation. But when somebody said criminal defamation, there's nothing like criminal defamation. Criminality is criminality. When you use the word criminal defamation, you see, Nigeria is very good at using different words to make what they want to capture you in a crime when it goes against politicians. But the politicians are always looking for a way not to get criticized, so they make words in the laws they make so they can help the police and the judiciary act with impunity. By definition, criminal is a, when somebody is called it, when something is criminal, is already a crime. So adding defamation to it is crazy. Defamation by definition is a civil offense. It is not a criminal offense. I've not seen where defamation has been criminalized, but in Nigeria, they term it cyber bullying. Bully is not even supposed to be a criminal offense, you know, except when the bully leads to someone taking their life, or the bully leads to something else, when the bully leads to a crime. But just the bully itself is not a criminal offense. So Nigerians should know that people being arrested for defamation and kept in solid confinement for a long time is wrong, and it's something Nigerians should resist. Now let's move forward. The Nigerian judiciary system, I would really have loved to speak with my co-host on this topic, but it is so sad that my co-host network will not allow him. Do you understand what I mean? So the power in democracy is deliberately divided so that no single arm of government becomes powerful. You know, in any functioning democracy, right? Like I've been saying, power is not supposed to sit in one place. You should have the executive, the president, the governor who run the country, the legislators who make the law, and then judiciary who are the referee, just like I've been saying in the layman terms. The one who interprets the law and settle dispute. I'm just trying to go all in summary. The idea is simple. Each arms of government check the other. Nobody should be above the law, you know. But here's the problem. When the judiciary stop acting like an independent referee and start aligning with executive, that balance collapses, you know, because now some people who hold power are also influencing how the law is interpreted, you know. So I would have loved to ask my co-host, as someone that lives in Nigeria, do you think Nigeria still operates a true separation of power, or has one arm clearly taken over? You know, that's a question I would have loved to ask my co-host if his network would have allowed him just have a conversation with me. But with what we are seeing from afar, I can clearly say no. No, 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 no. No, there's no more separation of power because I've not seen the legislative body hold the executive accountable. I have not seen the legislative hold the judiciary accountable. I have not seen the legislative hold, I mean, the judiciary hold the legislative or the executive accountable. Instead, it seems like they are all working in synchrony, you know. There is nobody checking anybody. And that is a total failure of democracy. If the separation of power is eroded, then you have no democracy. What you have is a conglomerate of elite politicians living a fabulous life on the taxpayers' dime. You know, judges must be free from political pressure, influence, or fear. Judicial independence means judge should be able to look at a case, even if it involves the president, and make a decision based purely on law, not based on pressure or based on who appointed them, not based on consequences. In theory, even the Supreme Court of Nigeria, the highest court in the land, is supposed to be completely neutral. Their loyalty should be to the Constitution and not to any goddamn president or politician. That is a fact. That's how it's supposed to be for the judiciary. I know judges are appointed through political influence. That is a fact because most judges people lobby for the president to appoint them, you know. But still, with that being said, it is supposed to be independent. You're supposed to show, not just only see that justice is done, but you must show that justice was done. Okay. Now, another question I would have loved to ask my co-host is, man, I really wish he was here for real. Can a judiciary truly be independent when the judges are appointed and funded by the same executive they may have to rule against? This is what I was talking about. This is what I was talking about, right? Previously, that sorry, pardon me. You know, when you talk too much, you can have like a dry throat. This is what I'm talking about. How do you expect the executive, who by understanding is definitely going to have a lot of cases, right, in the judiciary by measure of executive order? Because when he passes executive order, there are people who are definitely going to challenge such executive order. By just measure, how do you expect someone like that to appoint a person to serve to the bench and bring a case to that same bench, and that person would judge fairly? You know, it is crazy to think that is not how it is. That's how it is. But the question is, are these judgments fair? Are they real judgment or a compromise or a captured judgment? You know, normally a judge is supposed to rule without fear or favor, you know, which is the core idea of justice. Justice must be delivered impartially, no intimidation, no bias, no special treatment. But my question is, that how Nigeria judicial system is operating? No, it's not operating that way. Nobody can lie about it. We all know. If you've ever lived in Nigeria, you know that the judiciary system, even by the fact that that you have case that will linger for years upon years, is still a disaster for the judiciary system. If a judge cannot do his job fast enough, you know, then more judges should be hired. more courts too should be built. That's just it. But I'm still going to talk about the bar association because the bar association is a very, very key component of this whole conversation because they are supposed to be the regulatory body. Because without the bar association, you cannot practice law because they have the right to revoke your license if you behave unethical. So if the bar itself has been captured, it is still a problem. It is even a major problem if the disciplinary body that is supposed to discipline the judges and the lawyers for ethical breaches are captured. Then what else do you expect? Normally, a judge receiving a house and a vehicle is supposed to be one of those things you lose your licenses for. A judge receiving gifts is supposed to be one of those things you lose your licenses for. A judge appearing in a political event is supposed to be one of those things you lose your licenses for. A judge meeting secretly with politicians should be one of those things you lose your license for, you know, if you have a real bar of association that is responsible. Now let's proceed. There is a phrase often used to describe how justice should be delivered without fear of favor, right? Without fear means a judge should not be afraid of consequence, whether political, personal, or professional. Without favor means they should not give preferential treatment, whether to politicians, wealthy individuals, or powerful institutions. Again, I would like to ask, is this how is practiced in Nigeria? If you think this is how it's practiced in Nigeria, leave your comment on the comment section. But if you think no, also leave your comment and tell us what you disagree about the practices and what you think about such practices. Let's proceed. So whether it's a market trader or a whether it's a market trader or a sitting governor, the law should treat them exactly the same. That is what being no one is above the law means. But in Nigeria, many people feel that justice is selective. The poor fears the system, while the powerful seems to navigate it comfortably. This statement is so true because as a poor man, you don't want to find yourself in the legal quagmire in Nigeria. They will sell everything your family own to get your freedom back. If not, you'll find yourself doing 6, 7 years without appearing in a courtroom once or maybe more than once in Nigeria. A politician or a rich individual can call a police officer. Let's say, for example, you have a quarrel with your neighbor, and your neighbor happened to be a rich man, right? He can just call the police. First of all, let's assume the neighbor was wrong and you were right. He can call the police, and the police can pick you up and put you in jail forever for as long as the rich man is satisfied. That is after your family has gone to beg, after your mother has been insulted, or your brothers, everybody has been treated as, you know, they won't even take you to court. The law says you should be taken to court 24 to 48 hours. Sometimes they take you to court and the judge would remand you for another 4 months in prison just to give the comfort to the rich man. Instead of the judge to look at the case and says, no, this is not supposed to be, that's not supposed to be. But just because the person that brought you there is rich in Nigeria, the judge will remand you for 4, 5 months. And that 4, 5 months, they might not even bring you back to court if you don't have a competent lawyer that can go fight for you. They can, if you don't have a lawyer, you can just from 4, 5 months do 6 years straight. If you don't have family members that have resources to fight for your freedom. So the poor are scared of the judiciary system in Nigeria. This is a fact. But the rich, they love it. They love it because they navigate it comfortably. They love it because they can bribe their way through it. They can get favorable judgment. They can pick up any innocent citizen at will. They can intimidate people and take their properties. They can do whatever they want. Nigeria is a society, this is personal, where a judge seized a land from someone and the land has C of O. But the judge told the person, you can't fight it. You don't have what it takes to fight me over this land. The people that sold the land advised the person and said, you know what, let it go. We are going to give you another location, please. And for that inconveniences, we're going to add something and something to the one we're going to give you. So you see, the judge was able to use his position to intimidate a citizen, even though the law says that the citizen having a C of O has given him right to that plot of land. So the judiciary system is totally broken in Nigeria. It is a fact. But are there remedies to solve it? Are there things that can be done to help bring the system back? Absolutely. There are steps that can be taken that would help the system reverberate itself. And reform is one of those steps, right? We'll talk about those steps as time goes on. Reform is one of the steps, you know. Reform is one of those steps. And everybody needs to, like the lawyers, accountability. After reform, accountability is another one. And also punishment is another one. So we'll get to it. We'll get to it, but I know that it is not all bad, it's not all lost. Nigeria judiciary system can be revived if the people are willing, if there is a will for it, right? So the issue is not just one bad judgment, it is a pattern. When you look at the historic failure of the Nigerian judiciary system, a pattern that stretches across decades, across different government and across different type of cases. Because if it was just one mistake, we could move on. But when the same problem keep repeating themselves, then it is no longer an error, it is a systematic failure. During the military era, you comply with decree. Let's go back to the military era now. During that time, courts were expected to uphold justice, but instead, many became instrument of military power. Normally, people will say the military era was good. I've even heard people saying that the military even listening to the rule of law more than some of these so-called civilian leaders. But to be honest with you, the military, by definition, do not support the rule of law because theirs is by decree. And once they decree, the judge cannot rule against such decree because it makes no sense. They will not execute it because they are the executive, so they will not execute it. Military government will issue decree, and some of these decree literally remove the authority of the court. And instead of resisting, the judiciary often comply because it is military. You know, that era planted a dangerous precedent that the judiciary could bend under pressure from those power. You see what I was saying before? I actually draw an inference all the way from colonialism that the structure of the judiciary has not been reformed since the colony, right? Sorry, excuse me. Bro, I'm alive. I'll call you back. I'm alive. I'm broadcasting. I'll talk to you shortly. So the judiciary has not reformed itself right from there because it was built to only service and rule in favor of the colonial masters. Now let's bring that system all the way down to the military that rules by decree and the judiciary is expected to follow. And independence came, civilian took over, such practice continued. Because first of all, the constitution was even done by the military. and it was a decree that was turned into civilian constitution in the first place. So everything by definition does not have the proper structure of a democracy. It still follows some of the colonial and some of the military uh, process that has been on for decades. Well, I would have loved to ask my co-host a couple of questions, but that was a very dangerous precedent that was set, and that thing has still continued. So the question that I will ask you, listeners, I want you to drop some comments if you want to answer that. My question to you all is: do you think the judiciary ever fully recovered from culture of obedience it developed during the military rule? No, they've not. Not until a total reform. When I mean a total reform is made, and most of those things from those eras are allowed to slip away and removed from the system, it will continue to be obedient to the executive. It does not know its power. The judiciary has its own power, just the way the executive has its own power. And the judiciary's power, to an extent, is one of the strongest because whatever they says becomes the law of the land. And by definition, the executive is supposed to obey the law of the land. Everyone is supposed to obey the law of the land. So that is why the judiciary, to my opinion, is very powerful, really, really powerful. So let's fast forward to democracy. Let's talk about democracy now. Election petitions are supposed to be where the judiciary prove its independence. But what we often see instead are inconsistent ruling. Similar case, similar facts, but complete different judgment depending on the court or panel. So Nigerians start asking, and is the law stable or is it flexible depending on who is involved? When outcome becomes unpredictable, confidence in the system begins to collapse. Why does it feel like election cases are decided more by strategy than by clear legal principles? Because, in my opinion, the law does not apply sometimes. Not sometimes, all the time in Nigeria. The law does not apply. What really, really confuses me is this: you have the same scenario, the same case, the same everything, but different outcome of judgment. Normally, a judgment is supposed to have precedent. So you follow precedent. If something has been judged like this before, then you follow that precedent, right? Except some other thing that the Supreme Court make another declaration or whatever, another pronunciation, then whatever new pronunciation becomes the law. But in Nigeria, it's not like that. You know what happened? Whatever ruling they rule in Abuja, even if it is the same crime, the same jurisdiction, and everything, it happens in Enugu. It is total different judgment, not because of region, tribe, or anything. I mean, the judiciary system is not consistent. Normally, it's supposed to be consistent in everywhere. If in Port Harcourt, okay, let's say for example, where I can give grace, but what I was talking about is federal law, right? We have state law. Every state is supposed to have its own law as well. That's why there are some crimes that are state crime. Like murdering somebody is a state crime. The only time it becomes federal is when you move the body between two states. Then it now becomes a federal crime. But if it happens and stays in one state, it is a state crime. Selling of drugs and other things is a state crime, except you start to distribute it from one state to another. It is not federal. So there are some crimes that are state crimes, there are some that are federal crimes. Murder is one of them. That is a state crime that can also turn federal crime depending on whatever circumstances that might be. Well, we're coming to the end of this show, but let me try and see if I can hurry up and hit some more key points. Delayed justice. Delayed justice is justice denied. Another major failure in Nigeria judiciary system is delay. Case drag on for years, sometimes decades. I've told you all this before. Sometimes people are left without bail in solitary confinement. Why these cases linger for years, decades, and you just be there suffering for nothing. Imagine someone accused of a crime, waiting 5 to 10 years, even 15 years for a final judgment. By the time the judgment, by the time justice comes, if it even does, the damage is already done. So let's say, for example, now the case is supposed to have, let's say the person actually committed the crime, and the case is supposed to have a judgment of, let's say, 10 years, and the person has done 15 years before his case was finally judged. And with time served, after 15 years, he was asked to go home. What happened to the remaining 5 years if he was supposed to be sentenced for 10 years for such crime by the sentencing guideline laid out by Congress, laid by the House of Representatives? Even the way a judge is supposed to pass down sentencing comes from the comes from the legislative body. The way a judge is supposed to pass down sentences, all these things are laid down for the judiciary by the legislator, because the legislator are the representative of the people. That is why it is when you commit a crime, it is you against the people. You know, it's the Federal Republic of Nigeria against you. So it is you against the people. It is not the president against you. It is not the legislator. It is the people against you. So the legislator writes those laws even up to the sentencing guideline that the judges are supposed to follow. They're not supposed to make laws. The judges don't have right to make any new law. The executive don't have right to make any, only the legislators. So it's hard time Nigerians start to know the different role these bodies play, the better the society, and they will be able to fight back. And it's not just criminal cases, civil dispute, election matter, corruption cases. Delay benefit those who can afford to wait and punish those who cannot. In Nigeria, time itself has become a legal strategy. So, to my question to you, listeners, do you think delay are caused more by incompetence, or are they something deliberately engineered? Like, is it a systematic thing? I, for one, think it is both incompetence and a systematic rot, a systematic failure. That is me. That is what I think. That is my opinion. Or I see. I think it is both. Okay, let's talk more about conflicting judgment from different courts. One of the most frustrating things for Nigerians is when court of equal jurisdiction give complete opposite ruling. You will see two courts, same level, same type of case, and they arrive at total different conclusion. Why it matters? At that point, people stop asking, what does the law says? They start asking, which judge did you get? When justice depends on the courtroom you enter, it stops being justice. How it is often possible for courts at the same level to contradict each other so openly. It is crazy. Let me ask something honest. Do you think these issues are accidental, or do you think the system is working exactly the way it was designed to work? I want you all to think about all these questions I'm asking you. I need answers on the comment section if you all have an answer for it. So when you put all of this together, the history, the inconsistency, the delay, the contradiction, is corruption the main problem, or the structure itself broken? I think it is both still. I think it is both. Yeah. Both the corruption and the all. I think it is both. Yeah. I'm going to offer a solution, like I said, really simple solutions that can help uh, reform the system, real solution. Because you cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different outcome. The Nigerian people should see the judiciary system as a place where they go for justice and not a place they are afraid of. Because it is so obvious that you don't want to find yourself, I keep saying this, you don't want to find yourself wrapped up in the Nigeria judiciary system. You don't want to. If you don't have money, you're at a disadvantage, a real disadvantage if you don't have money, you know. If a judge compromises, there are means to deal with a judge. But democracy only work with sincerity, where people with integrity comes together, you know. In Nigeria, justice is not blind. It recognizes wealth. Because from the moment a case begins, your financial status can quickly determine how that story ends. And that's where the real inequity in the system starts to show. Let's talk with some basics. Bail. In theory, bail is supposed to ensure that an accused person show up in court. It's not supposed to punish you before you are proven guilty. But in reality, but in practice, two people can be accused of similar offense and one walk away the same day while the other spent months, even years in detention. Why? Because one can afford strong legal representation, proper documentation, and sometimes influence, and the other cannot. So before the trial even begins, inequity has already decided who suffer. You know. So my question again to you people, you listeners, why does bail in Nigeria often feel like a privilege instead of a right? You know. Now let's talk about the issue of legal representation. If you're wealthy, you can hire top tier lawyers. I'm just giving summaries to what I've actually said before. Senior advocate, experienced litigators, people who know the system inside out. If you're poor, you might not get you might get an overworked public defender or no proper representation at all. And in law, strategy matter. The difference between winning and losing is often not just the facts, but how those facts are presented. In Nigeria, the quality of justice you receive is often directly proportional to the quality of lawyer you can afford. Do you think cases are won more in the courtroom, or is the lawyer often? Oh, sorry, who is this calling me? Or in the lawyer's office before the trial even begins? That is when the lawyer have connection. Some lawyers have connection that you cannot even imagine. You know, so they just collect money and give the judge his own, give the prosecutor his own, and then the case will be swept under the rug and everybody move on. Now let's talk about delay because delay don't often affect everyone equally. If you are rich, delay can actually work in your favor. You can afford adjournment, appeal, technicality. You can stretch a case for years. But if you are poor, you may be stuck in detention for years. You may lose your job. Your entire life will be on hold. For the wealthy, delay is the strategy. For the poor, delay is a punishment. Again, to my listeners, do you think some legal delay are deliberately used as a tool to wear people down? Well, that is a fact. That is a fact. Let's put it this way: if you have a powerful politician where both charged with the same offense today, do you honestly believe you'll be treated the same way? Sorry, man. You think you'll be treated the same way in court if, for example, a politician and you kill somebody? Let me use a layman word, or let's use the word by somebody, right? No, let me use the word by. Let's say unalive somebody. You, a common man, and a politician does that, and you're taken to a police station. As a Nigerian, I need you to ask this to yourself. Look, search inside your heart and answer this. Except you don't know how the system works. But if you do, I need you to look in your heart and answer this. Who do you think will walk away? Or no, let's say walk away. Who do you think have the highest possibility of walking away from the police station or getting away with a crime at the judiciary level, at the court level? Who do you think so? You can give your comment on the comment section. Why does it feel like the poor goes to prison but the rich go to court? Is justice in Nigeria truly for sale or is it an exaggeration? Can an average Nigerian realistically win a case against someone with power and influence in Nigeria? I'll tell you no, 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 no. They cannot. They cannot. And that is a fact. They cannot. So let's proffer some solutions to the problem. Like I said before, integrity and accountability is one thing. The Bar Association has a whole lot of role to play in the restructuring of the judiciary to make it work for everyone. Well, these are some of the. I'm going to round up this show with the solutions and we'll call it a day. So, these are some of the solutions I can prefer, because I won't lie to you. It is easy to criticize the system, but the harder question is how do we fix it? Because if the judiciary is broken, then democracy itself stands on a shaky ground. You know, where there is no rule of law, there is no democracy. Number one is true judicial independence, not on paper, like real judicial independence. The problem we're having is that just justice or judges, let me use judges. When I mean judges, I include both justices. Judges are often appointed and influenced by political actors, especially the executives, political parties and all. How do we fix that? Nigeria need a transparent appointment process, as in reduce executive control over judicial funding. Executive is not supposed to have control over the funding of the judiciary. Executive have no power to disburse money because the executive would get corrupt easily. The people house is supposed, if it is not like that in Nigeria as a law, then the constitution needs to be changed where the House of Representative, the House of Assembly, is responsible for disbursing of funds. You know, so that has to be changed if it is not like that because the executive having power over the judiciary financially is coercive, very, very coercive. Threatening oversight bodies. Strengthening oversight bodies, like I said before, like Bar Association, has to be strengthened. That when anybody goes against the ethics or breaks the law or go against the constitution, they lose their license. And if somebody knows that after all the years of studying, after all the years of the things they've been through to be able to get that license, they will behave accordingly. They will behave properly. They will not bring frivolous lawsuit. They will not support criminality, because you have the right also to reject service as a lawyer. If a judge owes their position to politicians, independence becomes theoretical. The system must make it possible for judges, even at the Supreme Court of Nigeria, to act without looking over their shoulders. Politicians should stop corrupting judges. Just like Bukuchawan, the former senator, said, his wife was an appeals court justice or judge. I don't know if that's how I can say it. And he said it on the Senate floor that he has used his influence on his wife on so many occasions to do favor for his friends. And those friends are sitting down here. He said it. I didn't say it. He said it. Don't come for me. He said it. So it is obvious that politicians should stop corrupting the judiciary and there should be accountability if any does. Another problem is financial autonomy of the judiciary, like I've been stressing. The problem is when funding is controlled by executive independence is compromised. Direct funding allocation to the judiciary, transparent budgeting, better salary to reduce corruption insensitive. And there should be laws that are passed that no judges or justice should receive, even going for lunch, dinner, or kids' birthday, nothing you should receive as a judge or a justice from anybody. It becomes conflict of interest. You are not supposed to, as a judge or a justice, to do that. If these things are not in the Nigerian law or in the bar association kind of policies, then these are the things these are part of the guardrails that needs to be implemented to reform the system. You cannot have an independent judiciary that depends financially on the same people it is meant to check. That is a fact. Now let's go to the next one, which is speed up justice. You know, cases that drag for years, sometimes deliberately, is wrong. How do we fix that? Strict timeline for cases. Strict timelines for cases. Limit unnecessary adjournment. Expand use of technology. Nigeria, technology. I saw a video where somebody went to a road safety office and the lady flipped a big ass note. What the hell? 2026. You don't have a computer that has data information. Most of those people don't even know the law that are manning those offices. So technology should be incorporated into the judiciary, like e-filing, virtual hearing. Everybody don't need to come to the court all the time. And the idea of police parading people all the time. The only time you go to court is when police bring you. It's crazy. Justice must not only be fair, it must be timely because delayed justice is often denied justice. Now let's talk about the real part of it, which is accountability for justice. Very few consequences for questionable ruling or misconduct. Very few. I don't even think they are even accountable for those judges' rulings or anything. So what can be done to fix it is strengthen disciplinary bodies. People that are supposed to discipline these judges and these lawyers, you strengthen that body. That body should be strengthened. When I mean strengthened, not getting corrupt its own self. Like you that's supposed to check the judge will not call you and say, "Hey, take this money, forget, oh, look what I've done." No, strengthen that body. Publicly available record of judicial decision, clear sanction for misconduct. When somebody does something unethical, illegal, there should be consequences because consequences deter bad behavior. The reason Nigeria is not progressing is because there is no consequence. So many people are operating with impunity. So consequences deter bad behavior. Now, equal access to justice is another way to fix the problem. We need to fix the gap between the rich and the poor. In Nigeria, justice is heavily influenced by wealth. So what do? We strengthen legal aid system. That is the defense, all those other things that you need. We strengthen legal aid system, fund public defender properly. You know what I mean? Like pay these public defenders so that they have enough money to defend these people. Because to defend somebody is not easy because there is investigation that needs to be done. There are a lot of findings that needs to be done. There are a lot of people, places that needs. So defending someone is not just going to court, lying in your house on the day of judge of a court case. You pick your bag and go there and stand. No, there are so many things that has to, so many research preparation, you know. But if you're not getting paid for those time, you have bills. You will not want to just put all your all. You just want the case to just come and go, so you can move on because you're not getting paid. Your bills are there. Justice should not be a luxury service. It should be a basic right. Next, let's talk about the Nigerian police and prosecution reform. These are very important. The Nigerian Police Force needs to change their name from the Nigerian Police Force to Nigerian Police Department or the Nigerian Police Agency or something. This force has got to go. Many cases are already compromised before they reach the court. So, how do we fix that? We use better training for the Nigerian police. They need better training. Like the whole system needs to be brought down and rebuilt. Punish unlawful detention. When people are detained unlawfully, officers should pay a price. If police officers are held account, they will behave appropriately. That is why you see Nigerian police are so scared of cameras because they are unprofessional bunch of people I've ever seen, criminal minded. Not even there is nothing like law abiding in their medulla oblongata. All they think about is crime. That is my opinion. How to they you can in 100 you can only find two good or three good ones that are actually there to do the law enforcement. The rest are just there to brutalize, oppress, behave in a criminal fashion and all. Then professionalize prosecution. The prosecutor and the police, like I said, they do work hand in hand a lot. So the prosecutor should be professional at all time. That is one fix. Because if the foundation is broken, the court cannot fix everything, you know. Then now let's go to the one that is really important as well, which is cultural and mindset. What do I mean by cultural and mindset? This is the uncomfortable part. The judiciary reflects the society it operates in. If corruption is normalized in society, it will show up in the court. You cannot build a clean judiciary inside a corrupt system without broader change. So, my question to you is the judiciary the problem or just a mirror of Nigeria itself? Now, let's be honest, none of these reform are easy because the people who benefit from this current system are often the ones with the power to change it. So the real question is not just what needs to change, but who's willing to change it and at what cost. Because at the end of the day, this is bigger than court and judges. It's about whether Nigeria can truly trust the system meant to protect them, right? Now, first of all, before I go into my closing remark, please subscribe to my channel as I try to bring topic upon topic where that are affecting Nigerians, and also try to use the fact that I've been around the world, yeah, yeah, so I can provide for. I know what a good society is supposed to look like, and what the people needs from their government. You know, at the end of the day, the judiciary is not just another arm of government; it is the final line between order and chaos. That was what I said in my opening statement. Because when the courts are trusted, people believe in justice. But when the courts are doubted, people start to take matter into their own hands. And that is a dangerous place for any nation to be. Nigeria doesn't just need law, it needs a judiciary that can stand firm without fear and without favor. Because without justice, there is no fairness, and without fairness, there is no nation. This is Talk About It with Chidi. I'm your host. And shout out to my co host who was unable to be here with us because of the network. Greetings to you, Sake. If this conversation made you think, question, or even disagree, share it because these are the conversation we have to keep having. Until next time, let's keep talking about it. Thank you all for listening and for being here. You have a wonderful day.